Hey guys, it's Matt. Because of a recent email exchange with Tom, we might have a better answer, or maybe the answer, to one of the hardest questions ever posed to me or around our community in general. I've only been able to give really lame answers to this, and it's time to finally talk about it. The question is, it's come to me a lot. Matt, why did they the slave masters in Spartacus, why did they let us talk from 2008 or 9 when most of us got involved in this sort of thing? We could make unlimited videos about the 7-Eleven job application, about the Robin Williams movie, Peter Pan and Captain Hook. We could just talk, and then right around, ooh gosh, when did the real crackdown start? Probably around 2018 or so. You know, and if they allow talking about something today, then you get a banner ad that will lead you to the real truth. See, that will Google will tell you what reality is, or you get a banner ad, and the banner ad basically says in so many words to people, you can watch this video, you're wasting your damn time, you just go here to this link and we'll tell you what it really is. So, that's not my case. I don't think I've ever gotten a banner ad. They just block the damn video. You usually don't get any sort of a punishment or anything, but I don't even come close to doing this anymore because there's nothing worse than spending hours and hours on a video and then you load it and it says blocked worldwide or will not load for whatever reason because you used 5 seconds of a copyrighted work or said something. So I dance around it with hobo code and I kind of know what I can talk about on this platform. So the question, though, that needs to be addressed here tonight, it's Saturday night somewhere, why did they let us, the Spartacus slave masters, why did they let us talk? These platforms, not just this one, Facebook, whatever, it was freedom of speech for the most part. Again, I don't really, I guess it was just the same. Google bought YouTube in 2006, and I believe YouTube was created just a few years before that. So, of course, that would have been freedom of speech then as well. Why? But for most of us getting heavily involved, it was around, for many of us, 2008 to 2010. A huge wave came up through 2012. Then we were able to speak freely through 2015, 2016 or so. Then it really, what could be talked about or presented, the squeeze really started at about 2018 or so. It doesn't matter because we know where we are today. And then all of a sudden these restrictions came and this huge censorship came. And if anybody's saying, Matt, they didn't have the ability to censor. Oh, yes, they did. Come on. Come on, man. No, you have to be more sophisticated than that. And we're finally, via this back and forth with Tom, some things he said in the email. I'll probably read a few sentences of his email, but it got me thinking about other things, and we might have an answer to this that's closer than we've gotten in the past. All right, let me back up a step and just start with the absolute basics. My premise, and I'm very confident of this, I could be wrong, but I'm very confident that they had the ability to censor if they didn't want all these videos about the 7-Eleven job application and the big thing that happened in 2001 and some of the events that happened in the malls or some things that happened in schools. If they didn't want these videos to go out, they could have blocked them from going out. I mean, it's pretty simple, pretty clear that they could have done that. I mean, it's not 1978 when we're loading these videos. I mean, it was, we're trying to load these videos 2008 through 2010, and a big year of change was 2012, of course, not just related to what they called the Mayan calendar. There's something about 2012 for other reasons. It was just a real strange year of truth. It led to, just the floodgates opened, and then probably, again, we just had 3 or 4 more years of being able to load what we wanted without the videos being taken down. So most of us would agree, I think the old guard would agree, they wanted us talking about these things because they could have blocked it. And okay, you have to start with the basics. Why do they want a group of people presenting these types of videos and talking about how the world We're dabbling into how the world really works. To me, YouTube at that time was a collection area. It was a pen of sorts. They wanted this sort of video, and then they wanted it to propagate. They wanted it to spread, at least for a short period of time. So when I say it was a pen, I mean at some point we have to be identified. Okay. And I'm not saying that, oh boy, remember the old videos targeting your mailbox if they put a certain if they put a certain sticker on your mail. But who is the one they're talking about that? Steve, whatever happened to that guy, Steve Quayle or whatever? They put a certain sticker on your mailbox. You're going to be sent to this FEMA camp. I mean, come on. All that stuff. Anyway, why did I start off? Yeah, not to identify anybody like that. Okay. To identify a group of people who can see. Let's do it again. The old woman from They Live. I've got one who can see. How many can see? What types of people can see? It didn't know us before we were born. And it had to, how many people are able to have the armor and drop the veils? And not that do they know who I am? Sure. Somebody, I'm not, at this point, I'm not worried about it. But in general, how many people, think of the smoking rooms. I mean, obviously, who knows how it really goes down, maybe like hanging upside down with bats. But how many of these people are out there? We need to identify those and we all pondered, what makes us different? We have Rh negative blood, or we still don't quite know. It has to do with imagination, and we all share similar traits in terms of creativity, but what makes us different, why we've dropped veils or have certain armor, or the barium sweep doesn't affect us or whatever it may be, we don't know. But I think it had to find out how many of us there were, what we're going to be able to see, and then more importantly, to hijack the movement. More importantly, to then see where it's going, use its incredible sophistication, its AI and its RAND Corporation think tank assholes to hijack it. And that's kind of where Tom and I were going with this email this morning. So part of Tom's email here says, where is it? Fundamental truths are wrapped up in psychological distractions. The distractions actually move us away from the truth rather than towards it. It's best exemplified by the 7-Eleven quote job application of saying not what he wrote here. So the so-called truth movement sadly would lead to as much confusion as possible, albeit in a different manner. Okay. In order to continue this conversation, we need to go back in time. Right about now, we're going to go back in time and use one of my favorite of Bill's posters, the boardroom meeting where they decided that they would be built just to be brought down. And we kind of sense there was never a meeting, right? And it's like reality breakdown after reality breakdown. Was there ever a guy or a girl that raised their hand and proposed an idea? Let's do this. See, that doesn't make sense. But so we'll talk about the reality breakdown aspect of that some other time. For now, let's just keep it simple. There was a meeting. And I've got to go over the poster with you before I use the poster to continue with the question that was posed a minute ago. We're here at Little George Soros is there's in the middle there. I don't know if I'm going to have any issue with it. He's standing. These are all apes. These are all, I guess it's a famous painting in some way about Parliament that Bill has adapted here. The one ape is standing. That's Little George. And he's proposing these things. Here's what we need to do to carry out whatever ritual. They need to be built in order to be brought down. So it's Strange Days in History, June 6th, 1966. 1968 was when they broke ground. Of course, it was 33 years apart. Little George Soros pitches his plan. Top left, the boardroom exploded into a mumbling and grumbling. And the master of ceremonies here is something that has taken the form, at least temporarily, of the Baphomet. Silence, it says, under the all-seeing eye of Providence. Let him speak. Continue, George. George then is making his pitch. Yes, well, I'm going to have to say it as George would, like Schmeagol.
Yes, master. As I was saying, it's all for the best.
That's from Godspell. Someone has to be oppressed. The end of that horribly creepy and ridiculous production, Godspell. What does it say at the top right? Drowning out George's pitch until the CEO, in the form of Baphomet, reset the frequency. Okay. Point here is, let's just say George's pitch was very successful and well received by the others in the creepy room. Again, one last time, just the fact that somebody came up with the idea, see, it didn't happen that way. We'll never understand it. It's so fascinating to think about. We can only think about it in terms of these simple terms, but it doesn't matter regarding the question that we're trying to answer in this video. So George's pitch is well received. We will build them. If you build them, they will come. Who's they? Demons from hell. If you build them, they will. Oh, maybe. Well, who knows? But maybe they harness the energy from that hurricane. Pause, Aaron, or maybe it was demons from hell. Whatever. His pitch is well received. Everybody claps, and that's what we're going to do. All right, fine. So he says, "Well, who owns the land for that part of New York? Is David here? David Rockefeller? Yeah, I'm here. Fifth row. Yeah. Would you mind just donating that land? We can carry out this ritual. No problem. No problem. I'm off. I'm down. I'm down with George's proposal. Okay, fine." Back to the master of ceremonies, which is the Baphomet here. He says, "Is anybody here in the audience have any questions at all before we move to the implementation stage for George's incredibly great plan and ritual?" Yes? In the back there? Who are you? Jared Kushner's father. Okay, how'd you get in here? What's your issue or concern? "Well, see, sire," he says to the Baphomet, "if we do this, then there's going to be a lot of people that will be able to almost immediately, or after just a few years and a little bit of sharing ideas and information with others, they'll be able to see right through it. We've talked about this group here that's not like the others. They'll be able to see right through it. So should we start the censorship campaign now? Should we not allow them to speak about it? Should we even involve the U.S. Congress and pass laws or whatever we could take, an anti-patriotism because of the event that's going to happen? You can't in any way suggest what happened was not what the news says. I mean, what should we do? We need to start the censorship campaign now." And then the Baphomet thought, and he said, "No. We need to know who we're dealing with here. We need to find these rogues who can see. We need to draw them out not into the light. That's what we need to draw them out into our darkness. We need to identify them, understand them, find out if this group exists, and they will be able to see exactly what was done, why they can see exactly what was done. Then we need to hijack them. We need to belittle them. We need to make them the boy and girl that cried wolf. We need to paint them into a corner as crazy, so whatever they say or whatever they notice in the future will not be believed by the people around them. We need to do just the opposite. We need to give them platforms to draw them out so they can be identified." Maybe their discussions continued, and somebody said, "Yeah, there's been this type of person here that has been able to, over time, through time immemorial, millennia, they can see through all the horse shit that we've pulled. We need to really get to the bottom of who these people are. And for the first time in history, it's like the $6 million man. We have the technology. We can rebuild him. We have the internet. We have the tools to finally identify these people and put them in that crazy box and nullify their power once and for all. We'll let them talk. We will give them a 10-year period." I don't know what was said amongst this group of monkeys. Something like this maybe was said. We'll give them a 10-year period. And by that time, via the analysis of every comment, every thumb up, every like, every YouTube post and Instagram post, and of course every single email is being read, we will not to identify them or to identify you personally, but to understand the group as a whole, and maybe to put that group into AI modeling so we can really screw over those sons of bitches. And look where we are. I don't know what your situation is. No I got family left, but boy, that's like, is Matt showing up? Oh shit, I hope not. I got family left, no friends. I got all you guys as friends, but it's like the traditional friends. Look what they did. The genius of what they did to us. The good news is I don't think we're falling for it any longer. Maybe 10%, but we really fell for it years ago. But, it was an evil genius. I don't feel bad that I fell for it for so many years. I couldn't have anticipated an evil genius the likes of Bill's poster here and what it represents. We're dealing with a hardcore pipe hitting entity here. I understand why Christians call it Satan. It's a lot worse than Marcellus Wallace. So, after so many years, we finally have a pretty good answer to this question. Why did they, I don't like putting it this way, why did they allow us, oh, thank you, Master, thank you. Why did they allow us to talk for 10 or 12 years with almost no restriction on what we were covering or the way we were covering it? I couldn't wait to get back to my computer in 2008 or 2009, boot it up and see what Cake in a Lake event Russian Vids was breaking down today. He was breaking down every damn thing was Cake in a Lake. He was finding 33 in license plates. And this is, 12 years ago. I'm going, wait a second. This can't, we know now almost everything is Cake in a Lake other than a weather report. But I'm thinking, I'm watching Russian Vids and going, this can't be Cake. And it turned out to be Cake. Oh my God, it was exciting. And hey, we have benefited to it, but that's not the purpose of this video. Okay, so they give us the 10 years, 12 years or whatever, draw the group out and identify the group. More importantly, start to model the group. Why do they? What exactly do they know? Where are they going wrong? Where can they be? And the second part of this, okay, draw us out, identify us, then put us in the pen, or what they would call the figurative pen. Then distract and manipulate us for the next 5 or 10 years, or as long as they can. I think a few of us have jumped off that ship, but the purpose was to see, okay, they modeled us. Of course they used whatever AI existed. What are we most interested in? What are we saying about the cabal and the Illuminati? And then what other distractions can they put in front of us based on how they've modeled us, knowing we will chase? And that is the key part. Identify, learn about, what is this? The first time somebody came across a horse, what is this animal? What does it like to eat? It's a horse. It likes apples. It likes apples. So this not milk then crafts apples for us. And what do? Or most of us do, and I did it for years and years, we chase. We get distracted. We do exactly what it wants. In the meantime, we keep trying to tell our friends about this or that, and we look even more insane. It was an evil genius plan. They did a good job. Yeah, they did but you know what? Ultimately, we've come out the other side. We've learned from it, and we're pretty hard to fool at this point. Not Nilk. We will not fall for the same things, and we will not fall for your ruse. Your cunning attempt to trick us. We won't fall for that horse shit again. I assure you that. Just for a few more minutes, it's important to stress the second part. Once they see what truth we're addicted to, and it was exciting. Again, we were addicted. Many still are addicted to a degree. And it's okay, but where does your addiction go? Is it just trying to track down the latest mall event, or trying to discover or being addicted to discovering your true spiritual nature? I don't like calling that an addiction. I think that pursuit is just. It's one of the things that life is for. So it's where are you spending your time? So learn so much about how to push our buttons. And do I think if anybody's saying, Matt, that's the reason in and of itself why they did what they did. Okay, I hear you, but I don't think so. I think whenever they do something big, there is a secondary result that they want, a tertiary level, a quadrutiary, that's a word I just made up, level, a septuple level, I made that up. They never just get one thing. They're that evil genius. And when little George proposed the plan, Matt, you don't think a guy came into a room and made a pitch? No, I don't. I don't think that happened. at all, ever. I don't know how it happened. But I think they saw it as, okay, it wasn't, in my opinion, it was not the reason for the big event to draw us out, identify us. I mean, that event shook the foundation of reality itself, in my opinion. We'll have fun with that and ponder that some other time. But it also drew us out. They learned so much about what our favorite fruit is, our favorite sweet, our favorite addictions, and then boy, did they supply those types of things for us, knowing the people around us are on a certain frequency or who they are, that we would never be able to get this information across to anyone. If anybody's stumbling upon this that's not used to what we talk about, they would say, "Well, you crazy person presenting this video, that means it's just, oh, you couldn't convince anybody. You guys are right." No, what's more likely? Occam's razor. You guys are crazy. There's nothing to get across to anybody. You lunatics are in your own world. It is possible we are in our own reality of some kind. I've put that on the table somewhat recently because there's almost no other explanation for what we go through. Maybe this what every group of old souls, whatever you want to call us, goes through when they're, quote, about to graduate, when there's nothing more that needs to be done here. They start separating from reality itself. And therefore, the screen reality to my friend Tony could be different than what it is to me. Maybe this is just what happens to any real person as they get ready to graduate, But it's still, all of this is great news. It really is. That t-shirt, jump for joy if you're not compatible with life out your window. Jump for joy. All this craziness, even I see Mandela effects. I know not everybody sees them. Just reality breakdowns. The news makes no sense. Every month that goes by, it gets more and more absurd. To me, this is the greatest news of all time. I don't want to get out of bed some mornings. I can get depressed, and Greg and I, we do too much reminiscing about the old world and going to concerts with friends, and we do too much of that. But it is natural because this reality is different than the old world. It's not like just culture change. Matt, culture changes and fads change and clothing styles change. No, it's not just that. There's something at the metaphysics here that's different, and it's natural to kind of miss it. But I don't think we have to be, I guess, a little bit careful that we don't want to miss it so much that we, kind of root to it. It is, for most of us, we need to move forward and, graduate. If we do too much reminiscing and longing for the old world and missing what we had in the 80s or 90s, it's okay to do that from time to time. I don't think it's all or none. But we certainly don't want to build a Jacob Marley chain rooting to this plane of existence, where I've talked about in the past that the fear of death could be the biggest Jacob Marley chain of all time to this existence. Now, no one's going to be able to completely overcome that. We are in the body, in the avatar. We are a very limited fiddle and bends type of entity while we are incarnated here. Very low, very low. You can't just say, I'm going to overcome all fear. It doesn't have, okay, I mean, let's be realistic. That's just not, but get it to a point where you can just, the string is small and you just can snap the string. Not this huge Jacob Marley chain, which most people have if they have a fear of death, if they're diagnosed with a certain disease or condition. Just what could be the biggest indicator of Mick loving the world really is the fear of death. And it doesn't mean we're just going to be, oh, Matt, you could just with no fear just walk off a cliff. No, it's natural in this incarnation, in this body. The fight or flight. If a bear comes around the corner, I'm not going to think about it. The heart rate will go up. The sweat will come. I'll start running. That's just who we are here. It's okay. We'll never be able to overcome every aspect of who we are here, but we can whittle it down. I got another stuffed Lenin for you, or another Humpty Dumpty. Something that the reality for some reason has to carry through time, and when it's presented so frequently, it carries tremendous weight or clues as to how reality itself works. But most people just overlook it as nothing. We don't overlook these sorts of clues anymore. Never talked about this one before. How many times in movies, is it even in the Bible? Is it even Lot's wife in the Bible? How many times in stories, movies, etc., don't look back? Is it Orpheus, the Greek legend? I mean, we've never, shame on us if we've never talked about this. Absolutely has to be a stuffed Lenin or a Humpty Dumpty. Don't look back. Where just not prepared to talk about the Lot's wife or the Greek whatever it is, Orpheus in the underworld. But it does. But even I'm thinking about like westerns. The house is, the ranch is burning, and the husband will say, and in some old John Wayne western, it's all over the place. Don't look back. I'm thinking, trying to come up with more examples, but it's all over the place. Now, what that you're probably shaking your head, and you're sensing that is a stuffed Lenin. People, if you're thinking what I'm thinking, there's more to that than it's just kind of used to fill a scene in a movie. Now, how does that apply to us? It would mean, yeah, you and Greg keep reminiscing about, going to the Kiss concert, painting your faces with your funky girlfriends. You keep reminiscing about that horse shit. You keep making ties or packs to the 3D plane. Don't look back. At some point, maybe it means if it's a stuffed Lenin, stop it. Look forward, and you have to maybe come to the complete conclusion that you won't be able to shed all the things that this body naturally carries. You won't be able to completely shed a fear of death. You are in the body in the avatar. You will always have its limitations. But, make sure, your last few years or whatever, you're not looking back if you believe that is a stuffed Lenin. And it certainly does seem to be with the number of times it's been used in art, movies, or whatever. Don't look back. Yeah. Matt, does that mean if I have a month to live, I talk about my prom date to somebody that I'm not going to be able to? I don't think we have to be perfect here. I think these stuffed Lenins are very important, but general guidelines. We're not ever going to be perfect in this form. My goodness. You rip some farts, your BO stinks. Who could think we need to be perfect? I like a lot of certain YouTube channels, but we're not going to be perfect here. It's okay. No, you can't fit through the eye of the damn needle, or whatever. We're not going to be able to fit through the eye of the damn. My fat butt cheek can't fit through the eye of the needle. You think we incarnated here? Everything was designed so we have to be absolutely perfect. Does that resonate with you? First moments after incarnation, first body, if you want to just believe in reincarnation just for a moment, still have at least a semblance or remembrance of spiritual self. You get into this earth plane of existence and some Rumpelstiltskin little creature jumps out from behind the bush and laughs. You fell for it. You didn't read the fine print. You need to be perfect here, says a little Rumpelstiltskin creature. You decided to incarnate onto Earth as a spiritual being from outside this place too quickly. You didn't read the fine print. You need to be perfect. Does that resonate with you? No. Me neither. I would say to the Rumpelstiltskin creature, oh, I need to be perfect here. Excuse me, we'll continue our conversation. I have to go take a shit. Yeah, that's a perfect being. Come on, man. You just burp in his face. Yeah, that's a perfect being. No, we have to be turned. Our fleet has to be turned in the right direction, and then we need to sail and do the work. We don't have to be perfect. But Matt, repeating a thing don't improve it. Just saying it over and over don't make it more right. You're right. You know what I feel about it. Let's move on. The only other part of the question that we're trying to address here is, I don't know if we'll have the answer or have the answer to this. I haven't really thought it through. I'm doing this part on the fly. Well, why did they decide on whatever date they decided on to really come with the crackdown on what can be talked about on certain platforms? And for us to answer this question, I'm trying to answer it with you on the fly right now. We must observe that it's not just our group that was censored. I'll give you an example. I think I actually mentioned this in a video. The movie reviewer what's his name? Just Some Guy, one of the few that I still listen to. The movie reviewer, Just Some Guy, saying he was demonetized and, in a way, censored, but it's mostly about demonetization. But it's really kind of the same thing because these people make their living doing that. If they can't make any money, then that's self-censorship. It's really the same thing because he was cursing, or he will throw some Fs out, and YouTube will say that the sponsor doesn't want that, or not the sponsor, but whatever advertisers don't want that. Yeah, I think I remember talking about this. It doesn't make any sense because there's all sorts of vile gangster rap videos and really vile stuff. It's not just a certain type of music, but their advertisers are in front of that, and there's always going to be an advertiser that fits whatever vile thing is going to be presented. So the last part of the question is, why did they decide to shut it down, our ability to talk about an event or a certain thing happening when they did? Why don't the other part of that is, why don't they just still let us speak? Wouldn't they still be finding out who's dropped veils and who can see? Why didn't they just continue to let us speak? Well, see, again, it's happening to this movie reviewer and others, and the demonetization. It's a trend across the board where all of society is going in terms of certain 1984 goals. We'll just put it like that. 1984 goals. And maybe they pushed their whole timeline back because they had to let the ones who really can see us, they had to collect us up or AI model us or whatever. Maybe they said, well, we got to put this type of censorship that we wouldn't put in place on all aspects of society, where everything has to go through a central authority, where a central authority decides on everything, even what is real in the world. Maybe that's absolutely part of the agenda across the board, not just for us. You'll have to go, the little old lady down the road, if she, that's the whole point of the the new real ID and all this stuff. You will have to go to a central authority for everything. To talk about this huge debate raging now regarding copyright and the AI art, like stable diffusion, and all this Congress and Senate bills about it, all the not milks playing that out exactly as they want to play it out. Of course, it wants one central authority for everything. Maybe they actually had to postpone that a bit because more importantly, had to identify our type of person. But now that, okay, they might be like, look, if we let them talk amongst themselves about whatever they want for as long as they want, yeah, maybe a tiny little group more will come or Matt will eventually be able to convince one more of his friends over the next 20 years. Or the core group that can see, they know us. And it's not about identifying every single one of us in our police lineup. Matt, we're on the side of the police lineup in this example. Yes, it would be about getting a critical mass and then modeling whatever they're doing with us. Our digital twins are being modeled in AI scenarios to see how they can really screw us over. Like they could put us even in a smaller box than we're already in now. So there's no reason from their perspective to let us continue to talk. Okay, that was done. That modeling was done. Now we and all of society is moving towards 1984. They're not just doing it to us. It's happening across the board. When Not Milk goes into, fifth gear phase, which it seems to be in now, where again, the 1984 controls have to be across the entire breadth of society. Nothing can escape it. They can't let us continue to talk in hopes that they can collect a few more of us up. And this gets back to reality gives itself away. There's not one aspect of the entire breadth of culture and society that's moving towards freedom, that's moving towards choice. Every single facet, every single slice of the pie as you whittle it down is moving towards the central authority needs to give permission or will tell you what to do. Now, of course, it's been moving that way for a very long time. I think even for maybe 15 to 20 years, there has been 20 or 30 states where you have to get a license to be an interior decorator. You need to go to the state if you want to help somebody hang curtains or pick a color for a baby's bedroom before the shower. I mean, of course it's been moving in that direction, but now it's on steroids times 1,000. And in terms of this debate with the AI quote art like Stable Diffusion, sorry Bill, it's not art, but I got to call it something. It's so incredible what's being proposed, and the Pandora's box that's being opened, where okay, because this AI, here's where it's going. The AI and people using the Stable Diffusion on their own computers, they're modeling of famous Hollywood actresses and copyrighted cartoon characters from Disney, and they're using all this copyrighted stuff, scenes from Pulp Fiction, all the stuff they don't have access to, and they're making their own posters and they're doing their own thing. And it's just like the Napster thing, but like on steroids times a million. And they learned that Napster thing was a complete setup, of course, to, well, that's a whole nother video. But of course it wasn't natural and organic, and Sean Fanning and Sean Parker. It's so evil genius. It's possible Sean Fanning and Sean Parker, at least when they were involved in Napster in 1997, they had no idea likely how they were being used and manipulated and played by Not Milk, because that wretched thing, Sean Parker is one of these owners of, from the movie The Social Network, and owner of Facebook. He has an idea, of course, of how Not Milk works. Don't give these people too much credit. We understand hundreds of times more about how reality itself works than some puppet asshole like Sean Parker. But even when the Napster thing, the Not Milk was going through a process there to create something, but to learn. Okay, I know about the moving to the digital and all that Metallica stuff, all part of the script. I know that. Well, it's a fascinating thing. We'll talk about it some other time. But it seems like a similar thing playing out now with this AI art and Stable Diffusion. If you look at all the bills being proposed, and somebody sent me a video. I might actually show part of this video in another presentation of mine going forward. But something like this is how complicated it can get. And they'll let it become a mess so the big authority can come in and solve the problem. Problem, reaction, solution. Somebody may create a video game, and the pixels, I don't understand this shit. The pixelation or the modeling, maybe they grabbed from another video game, and some sophisticated computer program will say, it looks like you used pixels taken from here, and you need to prove to us that you pixeled it yourself, or what? All common sense is being thrown out the window, and it will be a mess, and they'll make it a mess because then there'll be one central big brother authority, Ministry of Information things that will be just the absolute iron fist on copyright. And they'll tell you what can be done and what cannot be done. And web providers like GoDaddy or whatever they're called will have to comply with certain standards. And if you load AI art onto, who knows whether it doesn't matter where the AI art is just one thing amongst thousands of things it uses to make itself more important, to move all of society. It's evil genius in this regard. And there seems to be some real parallels playing out now with what happened with Napster. And guess what? Even in terms of these copyright laws being presented to Congress or the Senate, and I'm in terms of 100 out of 100 being an expert on this, I'm about an 8 or a 10 out of 100 in terms of understanding what I need to understand about this. But even the RIAA, the Recording Industry of America, they're back involved in this big copyright debate. It's like the same stuff plays out over and over again. No doubt it does. And then each time, they're so patient, so evil genius. They move society very slowly and incrementally into the place that they want it to go. There's so many areas where it takes these incremental bites or does similar things. Certain old websites, people will go to them, and the new browser, of course, says, this is unsafe. What a bunch of bullshit. Some sites are unsafe. Okay, we know that. But see, the authority comes in and sets the new standards. I don't know, the S2QL and all this bullshit, and then people have to keep redoing their websites to about the authority says it needs this and it needs this safety SQMLT, whatever it is. That's I don't boy, I dabbled in websites for a while and I certainly can't keep up with it. I'll never do it again. Talk about confusing. But then because you're not using the absolute cutting edge technology, where of course it's all about monitoring and all the things the Not Nelk wants to accomplish, then of course, who provides the browsers? Microsoft and all elements and agents of the system. You're on their browser. And so, Matt, use Firefox. Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm sure that they're completely on their own. People are like, Matt, you don't use Google. Use this search engine. Oh, I'm sure they're completely good people on their own. It's probably all the same thing. I don't think you can DuckDuckGo with some altruistic people that just rooting for us. I don't buy it. I don't even like Tom's toothpaste. Who the hell's Tom? Is that so good for you? Are you sure? Or whatever. Maybe they're like, well, I don't care if you just maybe, but it's probably owned by Amazon or something. In other words, I'm skeptical across the board like that. So yeah, you go out to somebody's old website, your browser provided by the Not Nilk will say it's unsafe. It's a bunch of horse shit. It's just because the old website, haven't constantly updated like it wants to be updated every 6 months. It's absurd. The reality via the AI and these computer systems that run everything gives itself away. First, this Mac now I'm looking at the new Mac. I call it the new Mac, but what is it now? Probably almost 2 years old. All right, year and a half to 2 years old. First, I'll be very quick with the story. First day I booted up, it said I needed a new operating system. Now it's easier for a Mac. I've learned that now. Where going to Windows 10 or whatever, that was like a big deal. Even they've made it easier. But it's like I just bought the damn thing. It's brand new. It should have an up-to-date operating system. So whatever. I go through all that. It's not a big deal in the Mac. But how many operating systems? This is the fourth, I think, since I've gotten it almost 2 years ago. The last one was it was called Apple Monterey, I think. I had to switch over to that. And the new one I have now is upload new operating system, Apple Ventura. Hey, bot, why don't you come up with an operating system name that's not named after a California town? Are you so sophisticated you can't go outside of California to come up with names for your goddamn operating system? At least in the old days when real people decided it was called Leopard or some horse shit like that. And so now I have Ventura Highway. So it's like, well, for what? For what? For its goals. Whatever it never can rest. It's the Terminator. If there's one more bit of information it can collect up, and the what are they called in Dark City? The Strangers can just do, we in this operating system, the Strangers didn't get this one little sliver of information that they could get from real humans. We'll put a whole new operating system all over their Macs, and it's not satisfied. If it can get one more sliver, then it'll tell me I need to upgrade. It has nothing to do with my use of the Apple or my product experience. Every old guard would agree with me 100%. Every single update to an operating system, whether it be whatever Windows we're up to now, or what's the next Apple going to be? Apple Compton? Apple Compton and Watts update. You update and there's a gigantic picture of Snoop Dogg as your desktop, and you can actually interact with him like a real NI. He's like, shizzle my nizzle. What are they going to do next? Every time it does that, it's so it can collect something else, and the Strangers can understand a little bit more about you. The Strangers from Dark City. Go watch Dark City again if you haven't for 5 or 10 years. It's not the greatest movie, some boring parts, but it is absolutely profound in terms of the Strangers and what they're trying to do to understand a John Murdoch. And again, there's parts of the movie that aren't very good, really, but it's not The Matrix, but it is The Matrix before The Matrix. Matt, do it. Do the Doctor whatever. Okay, I'll do. I'm not. It's hard for me to do something. If I can hear it, I can do it. The horrible Kiefer Sutherland acting job as the Doctor. John, These strangers will do anything to understand what they do not possess. They will do anything to get closer to understanding the human soul. Who taught you how to act, dude? That's not too good, but if I don't listen to it right before I do it, then I'm lost. But go watch Dark City again, and it will go understand these strangers. They're trying to get close to the human soul. They're trying to understand what makes John Murdoch tick, a real spiritual being who learns to be able to overwrite the matrix himself and can create, completely can rearrange the matrix of Dark City whenever he wants. What was the name of that? Shell Beach? Is that what it's called? Shell Beach. Zara's about to step on my keyboard. No, Zara. Okay, highly professional here. The strangers, in a way, can also represent like an AI system. It doesn't understand the human soul. And if it needs to send Matt a new damn operating system for the quote new Mac every day, it will. It knows just the level where I'm going to get so pissed off that I toss the new Mac out a window. And other than that, it will keep feeding me new operating systems just to collect the information that it wants. A reality, Chat GPT listening to me in real time, you give yourself away, okay? You need to act more natural and normal if you don't want so many of us to see through your ruse. Your cunning attempt to trick us. Thanks for listening.